Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you folks are. Welcome to today's webinar, BI Best Practices for the NetSuite ERP Newcomer. So this is our 5th edition that we've done so far. We're getting really nice feedback, and what we'll be doing today is going through some of the best practices around BI, especially those that are relatively new to NetSuite ERP or have been using NetSuite ERP for a while, but haven't really thought about BI and how it could integrate into their own systems. Okay, so for today's agenda, these are the areas that we're going to be covering. Part one is what has been scheduled today. That's going to happen in the first half hour or so. Part two is really optional. For anyone who wants to stick around for a live demo, you're more than welcome to. That will be following the Q&A, the typical Q&A that we have at the end of today's series. So part one, that's for everyone that has been invited. Part two, again, optional, just give you the opportunity to see the actual solution, our solution that we've created in the BI space in action. So just a little bit of background on who GRU Solutions is. So we are a NetSuite Alliance partner, also a development partner. We've been around since 2005, over 80 consultants. We do everything in-house, so nothing is outsourced. We have over 800 customers. And one of the big things that we drive with our internal employees is to have certifications. We have approximately 200 NetSuite certifications across our team. And we've been really, all we do is NetSuite. We don't really do anything else outside of NetSuite. And as you're going to see today, we have an interesting business intelligence tool that we developed specifically for the NetSuite customer. So the first area we're going to touch on is evaluating your readiness for business intelligence. So before getting into how you would evaluate, how BI would be relevant to your organization and the way you work, I always like to show this graphic. It's by a pretty popular marketer, online marketer, Simon Sinek. He came out with his Golden Circle framework. And in my mind, it really relates to reporting and business intelligence. And what he says essentially, Simon, is that most organizations, or pretty much every organization on the planet, knows what they do, right? So in terms of what they do and what they deliver as a product and service, they know that. As you go into other areas and other questions like the how and the why, it becomes less obvious within organizations. So some organizations know how they do it, and these are things that make them special, and that's their unique recipe for success. But very few organizations actually know why they do what they do. And that's the same is true for business intelligence and reporting in general. So if you look at most organizations and the way they're looking at analytics or taking advantage of analytics, most organizations focus on the what. You know, the past, the historicals, the day-to-day kind of reporting and tracking. They're pretty good at that. But once they get a little bit deeper in terms of how their organization is behaving, what they can do to improve it, that's where business intelligence comes into the picture. And every organization is a little bit different in terms of their maturity, of where they stand and their readiness to take on BI, which is more than just taking on the technology, but having it as part of their actual culture. So a little definition of what business intelligence is. So in terms of the term BI or business intelligence refers to technologies, applications, and practices for the collection, integration, analysis, and the presentation of business information. But really at the end of the day, what business intelligence or BI's main purpose is to better support decision-making. It's all about the decision-making process and getting to that data so you can make those right decisions or best decisions to improve your business today and more specifically in the future. So especially around areas like forecasting, and some organizations, they like to focus on things like predictive analytics. In terms of reporting, reporting is a little bit different. Reporting shows you what happened so far. So it's always looking in the past tense and looking at statuses of where things are. So it's a basic function you need to do in every business to know where you stand and know to respond. It's really a reactive approach to running your business, where BI tends to be more strategic and more proactive in its approach. Okay, a couple of other things that's important to point out is reporting is a lot more generic. So reporting can happen within the context of a single system. It can happen in the context of multiple systems. It can happen in any cadence that you define. Where BI, things are really focused on business improvement and looking at the future. So it tends to look at things more holistically. It tends to look at multiple data sources. It has to provide you the ability to really do what they call data exploration and data discovery, so you can really improve the way you're running your business. So how do you know you're ready for business intelligence, right? So that's the $64,000 question, right? So this is a model built by TDWI. They're like the leader in BI and data warehousing in the industry. A lot of organizations look at this maturity model, and it gives a good sense of where you stand in terms of BI, reporting, analytics, and your existing systems. So the first step is always to establish your business intelligence maturity fit. Where do you stand within this curve, right? So there are organizations what they call prenatal or infant, and those are really organizations more focused on reporting, reactive type reporting, not really what they would traditionally call business intelligence, but they understand the need for reporting and they know the value of it, and that's something that they do on a regular basis, but it is very tactical and day-to-day. Then there's a bit of a gulf where your organization matures and you get into more deeper analytics across multiple systems. And that's what the majority of organizations usually fit in. And we see this a lot with our NetSuite customers. They tend to be anywhere between an infant and a child in terms of this maturity model. And the child is where you get into more deeper kind of analysis, BI. You get into kind of like OLAP cubes, ad hoc reporting. It's there to empower workers so that the worker can really work better. And as a teenager as well, in this model, you get a lot better around, tracking performance, having solid dashboards, and even getting into things like data warehouses. So once you get into data warehousing, BI is on your radar and you're taking that quite serious. And then what TDWI talks about is this chasm between teenager and adolescent stage. And what is this chasm all about? It's really about step 2, gauging your cultural maturity. So what that means is most organizations look at BI and reporting and analytics as technology, and that's where it pretty much ends. When they can really take it to the next level and really enter an adult or sage stage, they're doing more than that. They're making it part of their culture, their business culture. Business intelligence is part of the way they run their business. There's governance that they put in place. They have very powerful scorecarding capabilities. And every decision they make is heavily, or a lot of the decisions they make, at least the strategic ones they make, are heavily relying on a BI culture. And that takes a lot of time. In some organizations, it could take years. Some organizations never even get there, but that's where they're aiming at. And as you can see, the 2 lines that kind of show you a cross section between cost and value. Once you get into what they call traditional BI in the child and teenager stage, you start seeing an ROI on that. If you're not there yet, where you don't have somewhat of a culture and somewhat of an infrastructure in place and somewhat of a need, BI is probably not the best place to start. You really need to have some level of maturity to see the value and ROI. And in the NetSuite community, we see that in it's becoming more evident in smaller organizations. BI is becoming more important, and they don't have to be a large organization or a mid-sized organization. Even small organizations are seeing the value today because there's been a shift in the economy from being one time everything was about cloud, but now everything's about data. Living in the data economy, as they say. So the data economy is a place where a lot of decisions are based on the data you have at your fingertips. And now with the accessibility of BI tools, really for anyone, You could be a 5-person organization and take advantage of BI. Having that part of your culture is not a nice to have, but it really is becoming more and more of a must have. So I always like to show this slide so people understand that if they're going to go down that journey and down that track of incorporating BI or business intelligence into their culture or into their organization, there is somewhat of an involved architecture that you have to keep in mind. So there's a methodical approach to this. You have to understand all your various data sources in your organizations, which ones you can leverage, how you're going to integrate those organizations. There's this whole concept of extract, the ETL process, right? Extract, transformation, loading process. How you're going to look at that information, make it usable, have it feed into a data warehouse, and at the end of the day, build out dashboards and reports with the best-in-class visualization tools that are going to deliver value to all levels of the organization, whether you're in the C class or your middle management, or you're someone on the front lines trying to close deals like a sales rep. Okay. So one of the things that we tell our organizations looking at BI is to really sit down and do some self-assessment of what the tools that we recommend to them from a BI perspective and how they're going to help them out. And we really split them up into two kind of categories. Is this going to be an analytics that's going to be focused on your operational needs, or is it going to be focused on your strategic needs? So organizations need to sit down and really take these questions seriously when they're going to go down that path. But again, there's a lot of effort involved in deploying business intelligence in an organization, and it does take a lot of effort and a lot of buy-in. So these are some of the questions you need to take a look at. Are the reporting and analytics challenges limited to a few use cases? Are you looking at BI because you have a problem in warehousing or looking at your inventory, or are the problems more pervasive across the company? Are you seeing reporting challenges across the company? Obviously, the latter means BI is going to deliver a lot more ROI than if it's a specific use case that you may be able to solve within your current NetSuite system or with some point solutions to help you out with a specific use case. Does your current ERP system house most of your reporting data? Is most of the data sitting there? Or do you need to pull information from other systems? It could be an e-commerce system, it could be another CRM system. At the end of the day, that's going to matter, right? So obviously, if it's going across multiple systems, the solution becomes a lot more strategic. It helps you pull data together and consolidate it and make some very interesting decisions around the patterns that you see in your data. Who are your primary stakeholders? Is the solution going to help you just from an operational perspective, or is this going to help you with your executive team make those strategic decisions, or both, perhaps? Right? Are these decisions time sensitive types of decisions that need to be addressed? Are they more big picture forecasting insights? All these details matter, right? So when you're looking at forecasting, trying to see patterns and trends, BI is a must-have. If you're doing something very specific operationally, trying to see what's happening with your, purchase orders or your sales orders on a daily basis, typically, and especially NetSuite, because that's our world, is pretty good at managing that kind of reporting. What is the volume of data that needs to be mined? That's a key one as well, especially when you're dealing with cloud-based systems. Cloud-based ERP systems tend to have limitations around performance in terms of dealing with large volumes of data. If your business has thousands and thousands of SKUs and you need to analyze trends and patterns and look over multi-year historical data, a data warehouse will provide a lot of value in that regard. If your information is quite limited, maybe not. Again, things to think about. And finally, is the reporting primarily for internal purposes, or does this information need to be shared and collaborated with others, like partners and customers? Again, just to think about your audience. Who is your audience, which is a key thing when you're evaluating analytics in general. Who is your audience? Is the reporting within your ERP system going to do the job for your specific audience, or do you need something a little bit more robust, a little bit more visual, a little bit more interactive. Those are things to consider. So that's some of the things from a best practices point of view in terms of assessing your organization and thinking about where you stand within that maturity model before you go down that journey, that BI journey, which we know is a lot of work. And that's what we do on a day-to-day basis to help organizations, especially our NetSuite customers, get there at the pace that makes sense to their organization and their business. So that's a brief overview on the BI practice. What I'm going to do right now is just show you a little bit of what our solution is all about. I'm going to do a little 360 product demo with some screenshots, just so you can see how we address some of these challenges that I discussed earlier. And of course, the other thing will be to give you a live demonstration later in the presentation for those that want to still stick around following our Q&A session as well. So we create a solution called Guru's Business Intelligence. What is Guru's Business Intelligence? It's a solution that was designed specifically for the NetSuite world. And what that means is we took the time to understand the NetSuite data schema. There's over 22 years of R&D invested in NetSuite in terms of its data schema. It's all cloud-based, not necessarily the easiest to access. And what we've done with our 16 years of experience in the industry is develop an R&D team to actually look at that data schema and build out a very powerful data model. So end users, whether it's a business user or an executive or the IT team, can easily generate the reports for their organization. So when you're moving forward Guru's Business Intelligence, you're getting an entire system architecture. You're not just getting number 4, which is the visualization side, which most people think of when they think of analytics, like a Power BI or a Tableau or along those lines. You get a full-blown BI solution built for the NetSuite customer that starts off by us mining the raw data tables from NetSuite with our own proprietary connector and then pulling it into a data warehouse. We've chosen Google BigQuery as our data warehouse of choice. So it's very powerful. It has a very good reputation, and it's all cloud-based. And we have our NetSuite data model that we've developed, and it will be housed as part of the solution. We also provide Google Data Studio, which is the visualization tool that's part of the Google stack that comes for free, and it's out of the box, and it provides you with templates. And you also have the ability to take this information and embed it right back into NetSuite, which I'll show you in a demo, so that you have that full-blown experience of BI without leaving your NetSuite environment. So just to kind of emphasize, this is what you really get with us. This is the hard stuff. This is the difficult stuff when it comes to BI. The visualization tool, the data warehouse, that's all stuff that easily available within the marketplace. That's all technology available in the marketplace. The data model, that requires lots of expertise, and that's what we have in-house. We built out our own data model. This is just one of the many dozens of tables where we developed specifically for this solution that allows our customers to really be able to report in a very flexible manner, in a very powerful manner from the NetSuite data within our BI solution that then is embedded right back into NetSuite or available outside of NetSuite and combined with other data sources if need be. So a little bit about our BI solution and some of the dashboard capabilities. Like I mentioned, we use Data Studio. It's very powerful. It allows you to have very powerful pie charts and diagrams. One of the unique things we provide is a dashboard within dashboard capability. So for those that are used to NetSuite, it looks like a standard portlet, but you have a lot more interactive capabilities with the tool itself and very strong functionality, which all drag and drop and full access to the system. You also have the ability to have timeline drilling. So if you want to do a time series and kind of drill through the information that looks at an annual data and then maybe quarterly and down to monthly data, you can do that. And you'll notice in the bottom part of this screenshot, there's also a list of all the transactions related to that drilling. So it's fully embedded in your NetSuite environment, and you can click on any of the hyperlinks that will take you to the actual record or transaction right within NetSuite. There's also a lot of flexibility around data exploration and drill through capabilities. So that's important. That's one thing that we know a lot of our customers were looking for. They weren't able to get specifically in an ERP system. You could drag and drop any of these charts around, but you also have the ability to drill into any of these details. And as you drill into one of these charts, it will cascade through all the other charts and all the other transaction records that you see on the same screen, really facilitating the decision-making process, especially when those have to, those that are like in the C class and they really have to make decisions pretty quickly. One other area that we find interesting that we see with some of our customers is kind of the limitations around safe searches supporting high volume data sets, where this is a place where you could take advantage within our own system, where you could think of multiple safe searches with hundreds of thousands of records. It could be all consolidated, all within the data warehouse and easily generated with under 5 seconds. This information, I could show that through the demo. It's very powerful and allows you to have a single report without having silos of data that don't speak to each other because of limitations of joins and within your ERP system. So there is flexible visualization options. So our solution does come with Google's Data Studio option. That being said, there's lots of flexibility around that. At the end of the day, we want to adapt to our customers' needs. So if you already have a Power BI, you can see here in the upper left-hand corner is a screenshot of Power BI connected to our NetSuite data model that sits in BigQuery. On the bottom left-hand, you have Tableau. On the right, you have Google Sheets. So there's many, many options in terms of connecting the system to the NetSuite data. And we have expertise around that, and it's very open. These are just some of them. There's some other solutions like Good Data and Looker. Out of the box, you can work with those systems as well. So what is under the hood? Let's take a look at a little bit what's under the hood from Grooves BI. So here you could see we created the ability to embed these reports and dashboards right within your NetSuite environment. It's all role-based and permission-based within your NetSuite environment as you have today. We have a whole area within the application. When you install it, it installs a bundle, and then you could have a list of all your reports that you built in your visualization tool. In this case, we deliver with Google Data Studio, and all you need to do is input a URL, so it points to that report, as well as an embed URL, which is standard functionality with most visualization tools in the marketplace, and it'll allow you to expose those reports in portlets right within your NetSuite environment. Okay, the reporting tool itself, you could see this is an example of Studio reporting, and you could see it's all drag and drop capabilities. It supports the concepts of metrics, dimensions. You can have your own calculated columns. You could collaborate. You could invite. I mean, there's all the capabilities that you would find in a typical reporting tool. The real difference here is this gives you the ability to get access to your NetSuite data in a very user-friendly way, and combine with other data sources as well if need be. You could also schedule your reports. So that's a nice functionality where if you want to schedule your reports out and they end up in your inbox at a certain cadence, you could define that as well. And because we're part of the Google ecosystem, you'll have access to different data sets that BigQuery offers, which is the data warehouse, to combine your data maybe with weather conditions and other public data sets, all part of the solution. So just a little bit of understanding the NetSuite use case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little poll now just to see where things stand with you folks. This is a good way to gauge where you folks are in your own journey. And it'd be interesting just to get a feel here. So let me see, I'm going to launch the first question. So the first question is, what are the applicable reporting challenges you face in your role? Limited charting options, consolidating data in a single report, difficulties in generating custom KPIs, performance or timing out issues. If you folks could just go in and just answer these questions, that would be great. Combining external data sets, right? Other or none. Okay, let's give it a little bit more time. We have a couple coming in. Okay, good. So I see some around difficulties in generating custom KPIs, combining with external data sets. Very good. So that's typically what we see as well. So difficulties in generating custom KPIs and combining external data sets. That's what the audience is saying. Very typical use case that we see with most customers looking for a BI solution with their NetSuite. That tends to be the hardest thing. Developing KPIs is not easy to do within any ERP system, and BI solutions are designed for that. It helps a lot. As well as combining information within an ERP. Again, they're not designed to necessarily consume data from other sets, and one of the most popular use cases is that as well. Okay, so one more question. Let's do that. Let's see, very simple question. I'm launching the question now. Does your organization have a BI or business intelligence initiative in place? Yes, no, unsure. See if we can get some of you folks to engage on that. I got one no. The others, 2 yeses. Okay. So I got 2 yeses and a no. Well, it's always a mixed bag when you're speaking to NetSuite customers, right? Some do have an initiative, some don't. So here I see one has said yes, the other one said no. We had a couple that said no. In either case, we're here to help you, we're here to guide you, and our goal is not to necessarily take you down that BI journey. There's always an assessment, as I discussed earlier in our presentation today. It'd be interesting just to help you folks out with any reporting needs you have, and if BI makes sense, then obviously that's something that we could assist you with. Okay, perfect. Great, so we're just going to continue on with the presentation. So this is a slide I like to show for organizations that are a little bit new to BI. A couple years back when we were doing some research in terms of people adopting BI, it tended to be in a more of a 24-month range, but now we're seeing it a way earlier where organizations are, for example, implementing NetSuite, and within 6 months, they're already looking at more complex analytics. And after a year, they're really looking at having some kind of BI solution, or already they had a BI solution integrated as part of their offering. It's becoming more and more key to running any business today. Like I said, they call it the data economy. So heavily focused on getting to the data and making decisions around the data. And you can see these are some interesting statistics that I recently gleaned from various research groups. For example, Dresner said in 2020, 54% of enterprises say cloud BI is either critical or very important for their ongoing future initiatives, right? Even the last quote here, more than 46% of small businesses, and we're not talking about mid or large businesses, are using business intelligence tools in their organization. So BI is no longer a nice to have or for organizations with deep pockets and large IT departments. Today, it's really on the radar of every organization that I speak to. Okay. The other thing about the NetSuite use case is important to point out. So you folks that are in the NetSuite space, so these are just some of the things that you should think about, whether you need a BI solution. And we see organizations, they're getting the most out of their BI solutions once they've kind of maximized their capabilities within NetSuite itself. And that's usually around saved searches and workbooks and some of the other areas. And we're solving that with our BI solution. Instead of taking this information and pulling it out of NetSuite and putting it into a spreadsheet or another tool and trying to massage it and get to their data, we've made it a lot more user-friendly. And what we address are 3 specific areas. Number 1, better flexible data visualization, the ability to look at data in different formats, not just a pie chart or a bar chart or tabular, but other means such as like geomaps, or perhaps you want to use a bubble diagram, scatter diagrams, 3-dimensional views of your data, better ways of drilling through that information, better ways of exploring information with just a couple of quick clicks, as well as combining that information with other data sources like an e-commerce system or a warehouse management system, perhaps another CRM. And finally, one of the use cases is around data volume. So you have very large data volume sets, and you're finding that your ERP system cannot handle it, or it's just limited in that fashion. A data warehouse is definitely some place you want to take a look at and evaluate and see if we could address some of those needs as well. Okay, so that concludes the presentation today. What I could do is open it up to any questions that you folks have. You could simply just go into the chat box and feel free to enter in your questions, and it'll be my pleasure to answer. Let's give you folks a couple seconds, a couple minutes rather, if you would like to answer those questions. Or if you have any questions, please enter into the chat box and I'll do my best to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I'll get back to you on it. Any questions from the team, from the audience rather? Okay, in the meantime, for those folks that want to stick around for a more involved walkthrough, I'll be doing that following this slide here. If there's any questions, I'll just wait a little bit more. I'll see if there's any questions and I'll respond. But that will be the next part 2 of our presentation today, which will be to give you a quick walkthrough of the solution live. And again, following our presentation today, take note of our email. Feel free to reach out to us, and we could always do something a little bit more custom or tailored to your specific organization, and we'll answer any specific questions you may have around BI. Okay. Okay. Okay, so looks like there's no specific questions from the audience. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into a presentation of our solution. Just take 50 minutes of your time, and we'll wrap things up for today. Great. So this is our solution, Gurus of Business Intelligence. It's going to be quite familiar to you if you're familiar with NetSuite in general. So this is a NetSuite dashboard, standard dashboard with various portlets. If you look at this dashboard here, this shortcut portlet is standard functionality within NetSuite. If you look on the left-hand side, this is Google Data Studio, as well as the quick overview. This is Google Data Studio connected to NetSuite, then exposed within your NetSuite environment. So all this information is connected to the data warehouse, yet to the end user, the experience is seamless. If I scroll down a little bit here, you can see this is Google Data Studio, but a little bit further down, I have another dashboard I created. And this one is, again, the same BI solution sitting on top of our data warehouse, which is Google BigQuery with a NetSuite data model in there. But now we're using, as a visualization piece, Power BI. So this is to show you that there is flexibility in terms of the visualization piece. A lot of organizations may already have Power BI or Tableau or another tool. That does not prevent you from using our solution. The real value we deliver to the marketplace is that data model that takes thousands and thousands of hours to develop and to get right, and constant maintenance and iterations of it, because NetSuite obviously is a constantly growing solution, and we need to adapt and support that as well. I'm going to go through a very straightforward use case. You have an idea of the power of the solution. So one of the first things I tell any individual seeing our solution for the first time is that we have this concept of dashboard within dashboard capabilities. What that means is typically in NetSuite, when you click on a certain chart, it tends to filter out everything that you're seeing in this entire dashboard. In our system, our BI offering, what it allows you to do is to have different levels of granularity of data depending on where you stand. So here you can see I clicked on this historical snapshot. It's only impacting what is showing in this window. It's not impacting any other window. So it's a nice piece of functionality that I know a lot of our customers ask a lot about in terms of NetSuite. In our solution, we can deliver that. Okay. Now, just to go through a typical use case, I'm going to put on my hat as a VP of sales so you can see how an executive can take advantage of our solution. So here you can see we're looking at a quick overview of an organization. The revenue is 42.63 million. Cost figures are 28.1 and quantity is 1.6 million. But I'm interested as a VP of sales to see the success of my top sales rep, Alex Wolf, and see maybe I could transfer some of that success onto some other regions or other reps. So I'm going to just click on Alex Wolf's name. And instantaneously, what it's going to do is going to filter out only Alex Wolf's sales revenues and cost figures. And you can see it has impacted the entire Portland itself. And now you're only looking at Alex Wolf details. You can see historical sales with the company is 11.7 million. I'm only interested in 2020. So I'm going to click on that. And now you can see he had 10.4 million in 2020. And I'm seeing something quite interesting in this pie chart where office furniture, there's almost 10% in sales in this area. And I know this is a new product line. Maybe this is something that some of our other reps or regions could take advantage of in pushing this product line as well. And I can click on that figure. And then with a third click, I get to see that Alex sold $1 million in revenue, but the quantity is a bit low and it's all in the US West Coast. And with this information, armed with this information, in fact, I could easily speak to other regions and maybe try to generate some business specifically for this new product line. Now, what I did here was what they call data exploration. 1, 2, 3, basically 3 clicks, and I got to that information. In many cases within NetSuite, to get to this information takes a little bit more effort. You may need to have multiple safe searches. The data doesn't necessarily join. You may have to extract it out of the system, put it into a spreadsheet, maybe another tool, massage it. Again, the idea is to get the information quickly so you can make those decisions quickly, right? So if I scroll down here, I'm going to show you another case just to show you a little bit more digging into the details. Similar use case, but with a different view. Here you can see I'm going to take Alex Wolf again. I'm just going to filter out Alex Wolf. Yeah. And now that I've filtered out Alex Wolf, I want to only look at 2020. I'm going to click on that. You can see there's a little arrow here, a little time series, which gives me a little bit more information on Alex Wolf in 2020. As I click in, I could see there was a little peak of sales in January, one in April, dig in a little deeper. And now I see the ebb and flow of Alex's sales in 2020 across various months. At the same time, while I'm doing that, you'll notice on the bottom part of the screen, there's a list of all the transactions related to that filter that I did above. In this case, we were looking at office furniture, if you recall. So I'm just going to click on only office furniture. And now it's going to pull up all the transactions for the office furniture 2020 Alex Wolf, just like the use case above. And you're going to see that that million in sales is primarily for one customer. So maybe this is not a pattern or a trend that can be replicated in other regions or with other reps, but rather it's an important client that we've sold a lot of office furniture to. And then at this point, I can decide whether I want to click on the item, the customer, the transaction directly within the system. So keep in mind, this is all our BI solution connected to NetSuite sitting in a data warehouse, but I could click on any of these hyperlinks. And what it's going to do, it's going to open up the actual transaction itself within NetSuite. In this case, it opened up the NetSuite customer record, and I can get into more details around that. So that, again, provides the end user with a seamless experience being within their ERP system, however, having the power of a BI solution embedded and fully accessible. Okay. So just to show you a little bit about Google Data Studio, which is the visualization tool that we use that sits on top of the data warehouse with the NetSuite data, show you some of its powerful capabilities. Here down here, you can see there's a table. This table actually has combined data. It has both NetSuite data with revenue and wealth, which is an external source that I collected that demonstrates net worth across various countries. And what's really nice here, it shows you the ability, it demonstrates the ability that you can combine data. And just to show you a little bit more, you'll notice here on the right-hand side is all the data sources where you pull in your dimensions, your metrics, you see all your fields. But under the data sources, a little icon here that I'm going to click on, and this is going to show you how you could blend these two data sources together. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see the table that comes directly from our data model, our BI data model for NetSuite. This is the customer overview table. There's dozens of these that you could choose from. And on the right-hand side, this is an external source that I pulled in through a Google Sheet. And with a join key, I'm connecting them together. And you can see there's different ways to join: inner joins, outer joins, left joins, right joins. There's different ways to do it. And it allows you to combine the data sources together so you could start analyzing information that doesn't necessarily have to live 100% in NetSuite. It doesn't require integration. It just requires what they call the blending of that data. And the final result of that is here, a report where you could see country, you could see revenue, but you could also see net worth by revenue. So here, for example, the revenue is quite low in Switzerland, but you know the net worth of the average customer there is quite high. Maybe another area of interest you want to focus in to generate a little bit more business. Okay. You can also create your own metric. So let's say I wanted to create my own calculated formula or metric. I'm just going to do one very quickly. And here you can see I'm going to want to know, for example, the average item as an example. And you can create your own formula here by going sum, find me the rounded amount, which is the revenue amount, divided by quantity. There you go. And here, in this case, I want a currency. This is the US currency. So I'm going to select currency. So it does support multiple currency and consolidation of currencies. Apply. And now I created a calculated field that shows you average sale by item. With quick drag and drop, I can see those details. Okay. Same thing if I want to create a chart, another chart, you can see you could add a chart here, or you can add a chart up here. I'm going to just make a quick copy of this chart, this data set. It's going to save all its settings and just do a drag and drop. And in this case, instead of this chart that we have displayed here, I want to use another chart, not a tree map. These are all different options, and you can see various options. I want to do a geo chart in this case. And pull in a building, the country. Here in this case, I'll create the country. And there you have it. You have another chart that we developed just on the fly. So what's really nice here, these two charts are NetSuite data. This chart here is coming strictly from that external data source that I gleaned. And the one that you're seeing at the bottom is a combination of the two.
Oh, wow.
Once you have all this, once this dashboard is all set up and ready to go, let's say you want to embed it back into your NetSuite environment. This can be done quite easily. So if I go back to my NetSuite environment, as you see here, it's standard functionality within the application. If you're used to building dashboards with the concept of portlet, all that is, it's a custom portlet that you could embed right into your application. And with a quick drag and drop, that chart that we just created on the fly is now fully embedded in your NetSuite environment. Okay, you want to share it, you want to schedule it, you could easily schedule this chart, share it. So let's say you wanted to send this out on a certain cadence to a certain group of people, you could define that schedule and it'll end up in their inbox. Is something that I do regularly. So it has some additional functionality that's unique to a BI offering and a visualization tool. Great, so that's essentially what I wanted to show you folks today. I want to thank everyone for taking the opportunity to listen to us. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us. You can see the email on this slide, or just reach out to your account, your BD or your business development representative. It will be our pleasure to help you folks out. And I wish everyone a great morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's our pleasure to speak with you and discuss any challenges that you may have in analytics reporting, or if you just want to learn more about our solution, Guru's Business Intelligence. Have a great day, everyone.